Now, it took several months to form Germany's coalition government, headed by Chancellor Angela Merkel, who visited Ghana a couple of weeks ago. Now, that coalition government, which took unprecedented amount of time to build, is a bit shaky, as members are divided among themselves on whether or not to dismiss Germany's spy chief Hans-Georg Maassen. Indeed, he's been suspended. He's been dismissed yesterday. Mamavi Owusu-Abuaji has been speaking to political correspondent with our partners DW Thomas Sparrow about why this is even important. Benis Abubedu, actually, I must say.
It took several months to form Germany's coalition government, headed by Chancellor Angela Merkel, who visited Ghana a couple of weeks ago. Now, that coalition government, which took unprecedented amount of time to build, is a bit shaky, as members are divided over what to do with Chief Hans-Georg Maassen. So, who is he, and why is this even important? Political correspondent with our partners, DW, Thomas Sparrow, is joining us from Berlin, Germany, with some analysis. Hello, Thomas. Great to have you here. Now, this borders on how tolerant Germans are to migrants. From what we know, the spy chief only shared doubts over the authenticity of a video showing that migrants were being hounded by far-right activists. To what extent is that considered offensive?
Well, the background of all this is those protests in the eastern German city of Chemnitz, which we also covered here in one of our weekly crosses. And what happened afterwards, as you said, was that Hans-Georg Maassen, who until yesterday was the head of Germany's domestic security agency, questioned the authenticity of one of the videos which apparently showed anti-immigrant violence, and that in a way contradicted the official stance, the stance presented by Angela Merkel's government. A further report was then presented to the public, which showed that apparently he had presented some sensitive information on security matters to members of the far-right Alternative for Germany. That, as you know, is the far-right party here in Germany that entered parliament in the last elections and is now leading the opposition in the country. And obviously all this together, both the topic of the video as well as the reports on what he told or what he didn't tell members of the AfD, caused many members of the political elite here in Germany, many members of the governing coalition, to question his authority and also to demand very clearly that he leave his position. And here is where the difficulties arise in the German governing coalition. The German governing coalition, as you know, is formed by the Social Democrats on the one hand and the Conservatives on the other, the Conservatives of Angela Merkel, which they are also divided between Angela Merkel's Conservatives and the Bavarian Conservatives. And when it comes to Hans-Georg Maassen, what you had was a clear line from the Social Democrats saying he had to leave.
Thomas, tell us more, apart from the reactions to his promotion within the Interior Service. What has happened after he was dismissed Tuesday?
Well, on the one hand, something that you can certainly say is that the coalition remains intact for now. This is not the first problem that the governing coalition has had here in Germany. As you know, as you described at the beginning, it took a long time to actually form. And what we've seen time and time again is that they are quarreling about their priorities. And this case with Hans-Georg Maassen is just the latest case. So obviously now they managed to reach a compromise. He left his position as the Social Democrats had required. At the same time, he remains within the Interior Ministry as the Interior Minister had required. So in a way, that means the coalition stays as it is.
Again, to what extent is this a threat to the painfully built coalition government of Germany, as you've explained?
Well, it is a threat in the way that it reveals all the different fault lines. It reveals that the German governing coalition is weak and fragile. It reveals to what extent Angela Merkel's power is also waning. It reveals to what extent they can't come to an agreement on some of the very basic principles of governing here in Germany. Obviously, we have to understand that governing coalitions are always made up of different partners, that have different priorities. But what we've been seeing in recent months here in Germany is precisely that it's just one topic after the next where the governing coalition can come to an agreement. So yes, in a way, this does affect the governing coalition's capacity to act, and it does create a lot of criticism, not only from opposition politicians, but also from members of the public, from German voters who are concerned about their interests not being represented simply because these quarrelings, these controversies here are dominating debate here in Germany.
DW, joining us from Berlin, Germany, was talking about the dismissal of spy chief Hans-Georg Maaßen.